Hi, good morning everyone. So in this demo, we are going to see how we are going to integrate between ServiceNow application and TFS application. So right now what you are seeing is the user interface of ConnectALL, where we would be performing our integration steps between the two applications. So I'm going to take you through the process of how we can do that in this user interface, and I'm going to show you a quick use case of how this is working between ServiceNow and TFS. For this demo, I'm going to integrate incident in ServiceNow to a bug in TFS application. So let's get into the demo. So what you see right now is the landing page of ConnectALL, and on the left, what you see is a couple of drop downs, which is going to list the application types that we are going to integrate between. So in our case, it's going to be ServiceNow. Choose ServiceNow from this drop down, and on the application to choose TFS. So we have two types of TFS adapters. For older versions of TFS, we will have to use Microsoft TFS adapter. For the TFS versions 2015 plus, we can use this Microsoft VSTS bar TFS 2015 adapter. So this we call it as a common adapter. So I'm going to use this one and give it a name, unique name that you can refer to this application link. So let's say ServiceNow to TFS integration as an application link name. And then click on Map Apps. So once you click on Map Apps, it's going to take you to a three-step wizard process where you would be configuring the integration in a step-by-step manner. So for the time saving sake, I have already created a link between ServiceNow and TFS, which I'm going to use it for this demo. So once you click on Map Apps, it's going to take you here. These three tabs are going to be the three steps that we are going to perform. So right now I'm in the edit mode of an existing application link. Even on creation, it's going to be the same kind of wizard, whereas it's going to be in the create mode. That's it. That's the only difference. So let's look at what is that we need to fill in the first step. So first step is going to be the application mapping. So we would be entering the URL and the credentials of each of the applications that we wanted to integrate here. So for TFS, we have an extra information that we need to supply is called team project. So this is the first step in the configuration of ConnectALL integration. And then the second step is going to be entity mapping. So once you have provided the applications that we wanted to connect to, then we would be mapping the record type and the project, whatever the metadata information that we need to provide for the application that is taking part in this integration. So as you can see, for ServiceNow, there is no such concept called project, so which only has the task types. So it lists all the task types that's coming in from the ServiceNow application. So in our demo, we are going to synchronize to incident. So I'm choosing incident here from this list. And then for TFS side, you can see we have a project and then we have issue type. So this is the list of projects that's coming in from the TFS application. So I have only one project, so it's called demo project, and then the record types. So that is coming in from the TFS application. So for this demo, I'm going to use bug as the record type on the TFS side. So with this chosen, you can leave some of these configurations below here to default, which are generally considered advanced configurations, which we will skip for now. And we will move to the third step in our integration, which is field mapping. So under field mapping, you would see the list of fields coming in from the respective applications. On the left is the ServiceNow fields, on the right is the TFS fields. So you would be choosing the fields from left to right appropriately. Let's say you wanted to map assign to in ServiceNow and you wanted to map it to assign to field in TFS. Select those two fields on either side of it and then choose the direction of sync that you wanted to perform. So this double-headed arrow indicates bidirectional sync data flows from ServiceNow to TFS as well as from TFS to ServiceNow on whatever updates that happened on either side of it. So if you don't want a bidirectional sync and you wanted to control the direction of sync, you can choose the unidirectional arrow as needed, either from ServiceNow to TFS or from TFS to ServiceNow. So appropriate direction we can choose here, and then click on this add icon, which is going to add this mapped field to the field mapping list. So it would come here at the bottom, so which would be the mapped fields that we will be viewing. So right now what we see here is a list of fields that I have already mapped. So I have mapped short description from ServiceNow to title in TFS, and description field is mapped, state field is mapped, attachments, comments, and I have mapped priority. So this is the field mapping that we have created. So whenever a record is created or whenever an incident is created in ServiceNow, the corresponding record would get created in the TFS side, and only these fields that are mapped here is going to take part in the synchronization. So that means we will have to map any of the mandatory fields that is required on either side of it for the synchronization to go through successfully. In addition to that, whatever fields of interest we wanted to synchronize, we can configure it. So there is one more level of mapping that we support, which we call it as value mapping. So as you can see here, the states is a drop-down list or is a predefined list that comes from the end applications. So what we can do is we can map what value in ServiceNow goes to what value in TFS. But this looks pretty much similar, so you would not be able to see much difference. Probably I can pick and choose priority, which can give you more idea about what I'm talking about. So here if you can see, priority on the ServiceNow is called as 1 critical, 2 high, 3 moderate, 4 low, and 5 planning. Whereas the same priority on the TFS side is called 1, 2, 3, 4 as numerals. So that's how the data is represented on both sides of the application. So using this value mapping, you can define what value goes to what value on the other side, so that ConnectALL takes care of transforming it to the appropriate value when it synchronizes. So this we call it as value mapping. Let me get into the edit mode of a value mapping so that I can show you some more advanced things that we can do. So with value mappings, we support import values and export values. So if there is a large list of mapping that needs to be provided, we can simply import the values from a given template. Also, this mapping can be exported, which can be reused in some other mapping using this export values option. So in addition to that, we also support advanced value mapping. So in advanced value mapping, you can do some wildcard mappings, like when nothing is coming, so what value it should take, and if a value that's coming in from that's not in the mapped list, so how it has to treat that. So these kind of mappings we can do in advanced value mapping. Also, we support default value mapping. So when none of the criteria matches, so what value it has to take by default. So using this default value mapping, we can do that. So these are some of the advanced things we can do with value mappings. So once all of these are done, just go ahead and save it. So ConnectALL saves each of your modification as a version. So it initially it saves with initial version, and then so every modification gets saved as subsequent versions, version number, so that at any point of time, if we wanted to roll back or look at the previous versions, we can use this load version option in your application link to roll it back to a certain version later. So we are all good with these three steps done with respect to integration. Once these are done, we are good to have the integration working. So let's see how this goes through in real time. So I'm going to the ServiceNow application. So let me quickly switch back and show you like what things are mapped in my ServiceNow application. So notice the URL. So I'm in the respective URL that's mapped, and I have map incident. So I am right now in the incident section here. So I am going to create a incident in ServiceNow and see how it goes through to TFS application. So let me create a new one. So let me create a new incident now. I'm clicking on new to create a new incident, and just I'm going to feed in some short description here. uh, new incident created for ServiceNow to TFS demo. Okay, and then feed in some description. Let me submit this. Okay, now a new incident is created. Let me take you back to ConnectALL application where I can show you some more things. Um if you can see here, this what I'm showing right now is the dashboard of ConnectALL, where you can see the current activity of something that's going on can be seen here. So in the activity monitor, you will be able to see the current activity on the success and failures of records. As you can see here, some records have got failed for some reasons, and you can also see that some records have got successfully created. So there are a lot of activity that's going on in this current server, so which you would be able to monitor here on what is happening exactly. So on the failure records, using the search results option above, you would be able to see like what is the exact reason why something has got failed. So if you see here against the status icon, we have a file icon. If you click on it, it's going to show you a pop-up with information on the reason for the failure. Okay, so if by default in ConnectALL, we make 3 attempts to synchronize the record. So by default in ConnectALL, we process the records in case of failure for 3 times. The default retry count we have is 3. So for 3 times, for whatever reasons a record sync failed, it tries to sync it again. So even after 3 times, if it is not able to sync it successfully, then it requires a manual intervention to see what went wrong, to take the corrective action by looking at this error log information, and then we will have to manually force the resync. So in this error pop-up, you would be able to see the reason for the failure. So this indicates the field severity contains a value 3 that is not in the list of supported values. So we probably have to look into the mapping here on what's wrong with the value mapping, and we will have to fix the value mapping so that this sync would go through successfully. So how to forcefully resync a failed record is against this column you see the checkboxes. So whatever records we wanted to forcefully resync, once we have fixed the value mapping issues, so select those records and click on this retry. So this retry is going to force the resync of the selected records so that those records would be processed again. So let's quickly go to our TFS and see the record that we have just created. Now I am in my TFS application. Let me get into the work items and see my bug that's created in TFS. So in my work item, I'm getting in there. So let me query the bugs that are available in the system. And I'm probably going to sort it for to see the latest one that's created right now. Okay, as you can see, the latest that's created is 2175, and from the summary we can recognize that this is the one that we have created in ServiceNow. So we can see that the information that is coming in from ServiceNow. The short description came in as title here, and the description have come here. So let me quickly get back to the ConnectALL application and show you some more features that I have skipped through. So if you come to the entity mapping section, we have something called scheduler configuration, where we can configure how frequently we wanted to perform the synchronization. So scheduler configuration, based on the scheduler configuration, the ConnectALL application is going to fire triggers to the end application to see for modifications. And if it detects modifications, it is going to fetch those modifications and perform synchronization on them. The subsequent section is the advanced properties. So in advanced properties, I will not probably go through all of them, but a few important ones that I would like to highlight. One is on poll query. So poll query is something like a filter. So we can apply a filter on the configured metadata. So let's say we have configured incident here and we do not want it to synchronize all of the incidents, and we wanted to synchronize only incidents of high priority. So we can configure the Perl query such that only high priority incidents are taken in for synchronization. It's basically a filter to qualify the records we wanted to participate in synchronization. Likewise, we can also configure a Perl query for TFS so that only the subset of records based on this Perl query would be eligible for synchronization. So each of the applications have its own syntax for the Perl query, which can be found in our documentation, where we have documented what is the syntax to be followed for each of the applications we support for configuring Perl query. And on sync type, we support two types of sync. One is poll based and the other one is push based. Poll based is the one that I was talking about so far. Push based is an event based synchronization where the end application needs to provide a trigger to connect on its predefined API, where it's reasoning for the request coming in for push service. So once ConnectALL receives the necessary trigger that it expects, then it immediately processes the trigger that it receives so that we can achieve real-time synchronization using push service. On sync operations, here we can control whether we can permit creation or we can permit updation or we can permit both of them based on the configurations we define here. To give you a quick use case here, let's say if records should be only created on ServiceNow and the bug should be created in VSTS, then what we need to do is we should uncheck this create here in ServiceNow and have the create checked on the VSTS, so that whenever somebody creates an incident, that incident gets synchronized as bug in VSTS or TFS. Whereas if a new bug is created on TFS, which is probably an internal bug, which would not get back to ServiceNow as an incident. So because we have unchecked this. With update checked on both of the sides, for any record that's created or synchronized between the two instances via ConnectALL, any updates on either side of it would flow through bidirectionally. So that's what it means. Or if even update need not go back to ServiceNow, what we need to do is we need to uncheck this update so that it becomes an unidirectional sync, that only record updates flows from ServiceNow to VSTS or TFS, but vice versa will not happen. And then to quickly cover, we have some notification facilities wherein we can configure the recipients for the application link, and we would be reporting some events like a sync failure or conflict or an application outage. We would be reporting all of that to the configured recipients for this application link. So in addition to that, I also wanted to mention about conflict management strategies that we have in our application. So this is a strategy we have in place to deal with situations where if two applications that are in sync and consecutively or concurrently two users modifying the record at the same time. So in that case, how ConnectALL needs to deal with this situation? So there comes this conflict management strategy. So ConnectALL handles this conflict scenario based on the strategy defined. So we have three strategies in place. One is master slave. So where we can define which application to be treated as master in conflict scenarios. So where the data that's coming from master would be preserved and slave would be losing its changes. We have a couple more conflict management strategies, first in and last in, so which pretty much works based on the timestamp. So wherever the change happened first, that will be taken in case of first in, and wherever change happened last, that will be taken in case of last in. So this is a strategy definition at the application link level, where the same strategy can be overridden at the field level as well, where you can see the conflict strategies we can override it at field level for each of the fields separately. So let's say if for state we don't want to keep ServiceNow as the master, we can override this to TFS, so that TFS would behave as master in this case, whereas rest of the fields during conflict scenario ServiceNow will be the master. So this way we can control which data we wanted to give preference to take in during conflict scenarios. Uh, that's pretty much I wanted to cover in this demo. Hope you have got some good insights on how ConnectALL enables integration between two applications and how easy it is to create an integration between two applications and get going with synchronization of data. Thank you.